Hope is not soft. Somewhere along the way, hope got a strange reputation. It started to sound soft, sentimental, almost naive. Like hope belongs in greeting cards or childhood optimism. But the more life I live, the more convinced I become of the opposite. Hope isn't soft. If anything, hope is one of the strongest postures a person can take. Because hope asks us to remain present in a world that constantly invites us to escape. This month, we've talked about a few things that make presence difficult. We talked about fear, how it can be weaponized to keep us disconnected from one another. We talked about allegiance, how loyalty to systems or leaders can override devotion to the values we claim to hold. And we talked about the exhaustion of living in the what if, the imagined futures that keep us anxious and restless. Today, we ask a deeper question. What allows us to remain grounded and present despite all of that? For us, the answers keep circling back to one word: hope. Morning, Dee.
Morning, Ange.
Well, here we are. We made it through the whole month of really big topics. And we made it finally to my very favorite.
Apparently.
I'm always looking for the uptick after really hard. We stay in the tension on Wednesdays. And I can do it now thanks to the influence of you in my life. However, I'm always like, but when do we get to talk about the good stuff?
Well, and let it be known, I'm also looking forward to the good stuff.
Of course. But I'm saying it's a good quality to be able to sit in that and not rush or gloss over or run to the positive. Sometimes we need to feel, and it's probably been my aversion. You're conflict averse. I probably have spent most of my life being like vulnerable averse. Like I don't want to have to feel all the really hard stuff. It's not to say I haven't experienced pain or hardship or suffering. It just means to sit there. I don't typically like to do that.
Sure.
So I'm learning. So, but I'm really stoked about this week.
Me too. So how do we get to hope?
Well, after spending a whole month talking through fear, the effects of fear that keep us isolated, disconnected, and have been weaponized to keep us in a state of panic and concern and hyper alertness. Then we move to allegiance that keeps us obedient and oftentimes silent in opposing systems that be, or asking questions of systems that are around. Then we moved to living in the what if land, which was the imagined future, and the anxiety that kind of mindset creates. It was about time for us to talk through hope, which to me is the product of all of those things, the reverse of all those things, rather.
Okay.
So fear, allegiance, and what if land to us lead to a despair perspective. Whereas the converse is true, that instead of fear, when we can embrace wholeness and peace, as well as instead of allegiance, we find devotion. And instead of embracing this anxiousness that is associated with an imagined future, we sit in the present, the what is, the immediate situation. Then we're able to actually be grounded and embrace hope. So that's how we got here.
Well said.
So I'm so happy to finally be talking about hope. I feel like it's what our world needs. So why do we say that hope isn't soft?
Well, I think as we're going to discover, hope is not a weakness. It's not something that you just, you're dreaming about in these lofty wishes. It's actually tenacious and takes grit and often develops resilience when you can be a person filled with hope. So that's why we're proposing hope is not soft.
Yeah.
Did you grow up thinking hope was a weakness, or that?
I think long before I experienced hope as a mature perspective, a tenacious, like you said, a brave perspective, I think I confused hope and wishing, whether it was through fairy tales or,
Yeah.
crossing your fingers, lucky charm of some sort,
Like the leprechaun or the pot of gold at the end of the
yeah,
rainbow.
yeah, like Aladdin's lamp, or, back in the day, it was the keychains that were a rabbit's foot were supposed to be lucky.
I remember those.
Yeah. And so to me, that's what it was,
Yeah.
like, I hope I get good grades, or I hope that boy likes me, or,
Yeah.
I hope I get into this college that I want to get into.
Which makes me think about a game that we played as adolescents where, do you remember where, be it like you and a group of girls, or maybe boys were there too, but you had a piece of paper and then someone was drawing circles. I don't know why my throat is like this. Someone was drawing like a spiral and you would be counting, and then wherever you stopped, they would stop drawing the spiral, and then it would leave a certain number of rings. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
And then you counted all of the rings that it created. So let's say 10 or whatever.
Okay.
But before then, you had planned out like your dream of a life. So they would say, okay, give me 4 names of potential, four guy names.
Oh.
And they would write down the 4 guy names. And
okay.
then you would write down like shack, mansion, 4 types of houses, dwellings.
Okay.
And then 4 types of cars. And then how many different types of children or whatever.
Okay.
No, how many different types of children?
You had the human kind of children,
Pets,
the reptilian
plants.
kind of children.
Different numbers of children.
Right.
And then once you stopped, counting, it was, I don't actually remember exactly how you did it, but at the end, you were handed your
Forecasted
future. So it could be
Wow.
like 17 children living in a shack with a guy that you actually didn't want to marry, driving a Cadillac.
And you threw that piece of notebook paper quickly in the trash
Yeah,
can.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was around when, I wasn't around. I was a kid when they came out with the Magic 8 balls.
Oh, yes.
And I loved that thing. I know it was witchcraft. It was short of a Ouija board, I'm sure, in a lot of homes. But, I loved that thing. And, secretly in the course of your own, in the privacy of your own room, you'd ask the question and then shake it up and turn it over with all the wishful thinking that it was going to answer something truthfully. But
Right.
yeah, I think I associated hope and wishing to be synonyms, probably. Yeah. What about you?
I think the same.
Yeah.
But then when I spent time thinking about if, does hope bring along with it a connotation of weakness? Like maybe in the way that we understand hope versus wishing, then yes, maybe it does. But like I said a moment ago, I think we're going to find out that it's not that at all.
No.
So.
Well, maybe the vulnerability required to hope is what makes us feel weak.
And there it is. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
See you Wednesday.
So let's start by talking about what is hope, then.
Okay. What is that?
What is it, Ange? Actually, I'm going to brag on you, because when we were developing this, I saw this side of you that I've never seen, but it was like Bible teacher extraordinaire. I actually took a picture. Maybe you'll let me post it. You probably won't. But you came up with this definition, and it wasn't just what is hope? No, it was like this, I don't know, digging in of what hope has meant to you, how you've seen it in your life. I'm not going to give too much away, but I just want to be a witness to I saw this being born up out of you onto the paper.
Well, I hope I get it right. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. We said hope is a present perspective, grounded or rooted in what has been, that informs how we move forward. So it's taken into consideration past experience, the fullness of the past experience. And then knowing that in light of that, we can stand today and move forward for the future.
Mm. Can we break that down a little bit more?
Yeah. I think the present perspective is about being, like we talked about, living in the what is and the magic that happens the moment we can embrace who we really are in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a grounding or a rooted, anchored. Those are words I keep coming back to. Grounded is my favorite for hope.
I think the present perspective that we have to keep is that hope lives in the now, which is a great summary for our conversations on acceptance and presence.
Yeah.
And the way that we're able to do that, to have that present perspective, is that we're grounded in what we have experienced in the past.
Yeah. Both positive and negative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is realizing, like taking a moment to think when you're faced with a difficult circumstance, taking a moment to ask yourself, how have I shown up in past experiences? How have I showed up well? What do I know to be true about myself? So that, it requires reflection, but that is the whole thing about grounding from your past experiences, is that you bring that into the present.
Yeah. Honestly, just the sheer fact that you exist in your present moments means that you're a survivor at heart.
Mm.
It may not always be thriving, but you have survived. So there's something there beyond just something negative that's allowed you to be in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Remembering. I put down here, look for it.
Yeah.
Which I say often on here, like become an active participant in your life. And I say that because I'm talking to myself, because my tendency, how I've shared, is to numb out and just let life pass. And so I have to consciously look for what are ways that I have shown strength, in the past. Recognize the resilience that has been building in me. Like look for it. And I think a brilliant way to do this, easier for some of us than others, is to have a habit of journaling.
Mm.
Because if you're anything like me, I forget a lot of things. And one of my favorite things to do is look at my journals when I've had a season of writing things down. And then I treasure it.
Yeah. And I think the funny thing is you mentioned journaling, and I was sitting here thinking, I have been a lifelong journaler, and so I try really hard not to put that on people. That's not everybody's kind of bent. And most people hear the word journaling and they cringe, most people. And they automatically think of these long, pour your heart out on a piece of paper. It really could be, and you've started a new practice most recently where it's just naming 3 things at the end of your day that you're grateful for.
Yep.
So it could be just a bullet, but just making a note somewhere with a date beside it, because there may come a time when you forget those things and you need reminding. And that's a good way to remind yourself. It's like leaving Post-it notes for yourself.
Yep.
We talked about a couple of weeks ago how the body leaves breadcrumbs, right, for us to find our way home. Well, sometimes that's the way it is too. Sometimes we can leave our own breadcrumbs through making notes.
I just had the visual of footprints, of looking back and then being able to see the footprints of how far you've come. Or
I keep coming back to this word, especially this week in regards to hope, is the word grounded. And I mentioned it again. I was thinking how it feels as if hope is our soul's gravitational pull to what's real. It keeps our feet on the ground of the present to know we're strong enough to move forward.
So the third part of your definition is that this present perspective and acceptance, grounded in what has been, should inform how we move forward. So all three of those things work as a definition for hope.
Right.
Which something about inform, that word inform for me means it's active. Hope is, it's exercised, it's being developed.
Yeah. Well, and it's not forecasting a future. It's just saying, knowing what I know about who I am, about what I have already been through, I can draw some pretty good grit to know that I will be okay going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I can make a next step, even if that's a next breath, but I can move forward.
Yeah. It's a choice we make, not a feeling we're waiting for.
No, I don't think hope is a feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's a
don't either.
perspective.
Yep.
Hope doesn't erase reality. It takes it in consideration and takes it in stride, knowing that reality is the best place to be, even if it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It still is what is.
Which I think is a great segue to the next point about hope, is that hope is, it's not just a wishing well.
Mm-mm.
You had another amazing discovery when we were talking this through, and that was the hope in versus hope for.
Mm.
Could you break that down?
Well, I think we start out by talking about hope for is that fingers crossed, you're forecasting a specific outcome. I hope I get into that college. I hope I get that promotion. I hope I have gas to get me home from this event. Those are all forecasting an outcome where, so by doing that, we leave ourselves open for and ripe for disappointment because it's not taking into consideration the millions of variables.
Mm.
And we've now narrowed our focus that if that thing we said we hoped for doesn't happen, then we're now discouraged.
Yep. Another thing would be that you're wishing for a specific outcome or result. And when you do that, you miss the journey.
Well, and the journey becomes a means to an end,
Mm-hmm.
an end that may or may not ever happen. Well, it also presumes that we know the future, that we know what's best for us, and that we have all of the information required, when that may not be true. And so to me, it's a little bit of a setup for disappointment. And I miss out on who I am because I've now outsourced my emotions to an
imagined
outcome.
future.
Yes.
Yeah. So then if hope for is wishing, then what's the difference with hoping in?
Hoping in, to me, denotes being grounded in reality, in the present moment. Just like what we talked about, informed the future by looking back and being able to remember all the ways that I have been able to survive, if not thrive, in the past. And allow that, going forward, I can hope in the fact that I am capable and strong enough to make it through the next breath. And whatever the outcome is, I'll be okay. It may be painful. It may be uncomfortable. It may not turn out. I may not get the job. I may not get the ring I wanted. I may not get the car I wanted. That paycheck may not be as much as I wanted it to, but I'm secure in knowing and I'm hoping in the fact that I am okay.
Yes. And I wonder if, let's think about those examples you just gave. I wonder if before I went into that job interview, if I thought, okay, how do I want to show up? I may not get the outcome that I'm wishing for, but how can I show up and be true to myself, my values, and list those out? Then I'm setting a different expectation. I'm not defining the outcome other than I just want to be true to what I know about myself.
Yes.
So then I can leave the job interview and I may or may not have gotten the job, but I know that I showed up
Yes.
and gave
Yes.
the best effort that I could.
Mhm.
I don't know. Does that?
I think it's huge because again, it's the perspective of, am I continually showing up as myself in each of these spaces? Yes, in a perfect world, I would love to get that job. But in reality, if I show up as my current best self, my most authentic self in this space, guess what? There may be another job, or maybe that was about connection with a person who's going to help me find a different job that ultimately is going to be more suited to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So again, that ties back into, are we willing to let go control of being certain about the outcome?
Right. And more rooted and in trust, hoping
Yes.
that,
Hoping in.
yes, hoping in that what I bring to the table is enough for that moment, whether or not I get the job.
Yeah. And I keep coming back to those intrinsic values that we have circled back through in every week's episodes this month. This is why we have to, number one, know who we are. And number two, we have to know what we value. Because that way I'm grounded in those. Was I kind in that interview? Going back to your example of the interview. Was I kind? Yes. Was I capable? Yes. Was I relational? Yes. Then guess what? The outcome may or may not be like what I wanted, but I know that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to do, and that's what I really hoped in.
Mm.
I think also there is something about hoping in that, again, when you in your mind picture the rooted, grounded idea, it makes me feel more stable and connected to something bigger than myself. So we can keep fleshing that out. Sometimes for some people, that's the creator. Sometimes that's the universe, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's just the earth itself, but feeling you're a part of something bigger and that you're tapping into. Hope allows you to connect and tap into something bigger than yourself. Where hoping for is just all these intangible,
Elusive
ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think hoping in still implies a presence and an acceptance. I wanted to read this excerpt from this book. It's called Love Henry, Letters on the Spiritual Life, from Henry Nouwen. And you've heard us mention him before, but this book is a collection of letters, and I won't go into all the detail about the book. I explained it to you the other day, but it's just a precious collection of written letters that to people he corresponded with. And so this is an excerpt of one of the letters where someone else had written back to him, and she identifies the difference that it made in her life in dealing with the death of her mother. She says, "I am so grateful to you for helping me to find and make meaning of my journey on earth. My heart is bursting with gratitude for the comfort you have provided me during my mother's illness and death last month. You gave me insight and courage to stay with the pain and wait with her for God. I feel transformed by my experience, and I want to thank you for helping me to endure her suffering and therefore be with her, really be with her. So you see why I feel such community with you? You have helped me to hope in and not wish for, and I feel I have really learned to be present in the lives of my mother and father from who I first learned about God."
Mm.
I thought that was such a good
Contrast.
yes of hoping in, not wishing for. And by her accepting what is, she was really able to be with her mother during that time. And it turns out she was grateful for that.
Right.
Mm.
And I think to me, when you view hope as a perspective instead of a feeling, it can coexist with uncomfortable, painful
Yes.
feelings. In fact, I think hope is more informed by feeling all the emotions that the past has offered up. And those can be transformed into an understanding and a depth that carries you forward.
That's exactly right.
But I think, again, we're sitting here with the reality of how often we have, me included, have fought against feeling anything but anger, rage, fear, anxiety.
Because we're afraid to feel.
Afraid to feel.
Yeah.
Well, I think all of this, once again, ties in so fully to our continued encouragement to see the world, see our lives as cyclical and not linear. Because linear thinking means I'm only looking toward the future, and what's behind me, I've either got to let it go or push it down. So, but cyclical implies to me a wiser way of living, because it means I keep circling back to the end that I am able to look at the past, feel what I couldn't feel before, maybe in the moment, pick that up. If it comes to my consciousness, it comes to me in the present moment, I can feel it again. Maybe I have felt some things before, and now I'm being offered up another opportunity to feel that and process that to a deeper wisdom of taking it forward into. So it's a continual pattern. It's never over and done with. And you kind of like dust your hands off from that, or it's covered up with a shameful, covering, a tarp, to never be revisited. But that's because your body still knows it. And so I think being able to do like she did, which was to stay in the present moment, but to stay open as well as allow anything that came up to continually inform her moving forward,
Well,
is brilliant.
yes, it's the fuel.
Mm,
And hope is the fuel that keeps you moving forward,
yes.
because you've seen,
Yep.
grounded in what was,
Yep.
you've seen that strength. You've seen the love. You've seen the things that were called forth in you. And so
Yeah.
it fuels you to take the next step.
Yeah, I think when we adequately see that trust is the foundation. So it's the ground. It's the solid below us. So we trust in ourselves. We trust in the fact that the sun will come up tomorrow. We trust that gravity is going to hold us to this planet for another day. Then that grounds us, and then we're able to move forward, and forward action steps. What are we going to call those?
Faith?
Faith. So faith doesn't always have to be a religious term. Faith is, to me, again, the action part of trust. Because I trust in something, I trust this chair, I'm going to sit here. Faith is moving forward. I'm taking the action of actually putting my weight in the chair because I trust it's going to hold me up. So I think every person that dwells on this planet is a person of faith. You're having faith in your car is going to get you back and forth to work, or the bus is going to take your children to school. I mean, we're putting faith in things all the time based upon a trust that's been established.
Yeah, and I think, if we go deeper, it's in things we can't see. And so I think that choosing to continue to live, choosing to continue to breathe, choosing to continue to trust is this deep, abiding faith in things that we may not be able to see or predict or whatever. But that's where it comes down to hope in.
Yes.
Produces and comes from a place, I think, of faith.
Absolutely. And this is why I think fear that we talked about the first of the month is such a weapon, because it tries to erode the trust that we have in the seen or unseen things, in those around us, in the divine, in ourselves, whatever it is, so that we can't then move forward in faith. So when trust is eroded, all the other things begin to be shaky. So at the end of this, we come back to that hope is not soft. It's not a fleeting emotion. It's not a feeling based upon outer circumstances, positive, past, it's not wishful thinking. It's not easily shaken. It
Right.
seems resilient. It seems strong. It seems brave. I think it requires moving forward even when certainty is absent. Because, again, it's focused on what you know to be true. It's focused on trust.
Mm-hmm. I think an important thing to point out here, have you heard toxic positivity or blind positivity?
Mm-hmm.
We are not saying or equating hope to blind or toxic positivity. No. How would you describe blind positivity?
I think an illusion. It seems like an illusion of that everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be okay. When the reality is it's not. And it may not be all okay. But I will be okay in whatever.
Yeah. I think there's an overemphasis on, or like even a forced cheerfulness.
Yeah. To quickly sweep away any negative thoughts or feelings, to quickly rush to the bright, sunny side.
Right.
Hope is messy. I mean, I think sometimes you think about for somebody who's been through anything, which most of us on the planet who've existed longer than, 2 or 3 days have been through something. I think of like dirt under your fingernails. Sometimes you have to claw your way to hope. It's fought for. I think hope is fought for.
Yeah.
And you know the people who have it.
Because they've fought for it.
Yes.
It shows.
Yes. And it's like it just feels strong.
Yes.
Resilient, enduring.
Experienced, informed, all the things we're saying.
Yeah. Steady.
Mm-hmm.
Even when everything else is shaking around.
Yeah. There's no pretending that pain doesn't exist in hope.
It's because you've lived through pain and felt it that you can actually have hope.
Yeah. Another thing that hope is not is ignoring injustice. Mm-hmm. And I've been guilty of this.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that all turns out, we can escape to these illusions, but hoping for something is not ignoring or denying that something exists. Yes.
Well, and we're probably going to get to this, but hope can be shared, but it can't be imposed. I can't impose hope. And that's what the toxic positivity does.
Yeah.
It imposes this everything's going to be okay mindset on someone else, despite their circumstances. Hope for me says, this is where I'm at, living through what I've lived through, understanding what I understand now. I have hope. I can share that experience with you. I can share my story of how I got here, but I can't ultimately give that to you. You've got to find it yourself. And so I think that's the difference. It can't be imposed upon somebody, but you can definitely share and you can lend for a season your understanding and your present reality with somebody, but you can't ultimately give it to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to make the turn to Wednesday to talk about the shadow side of hope, which is
despair.
And we're going to break that down, see the effects of despair on us as individuals and us as a culture, and how fear, allegiance, and living in the what if, imagined future have all contributed to that perspective.
Yeah. And then Friday, we're going to hopefully talk about embodying hope and practices. Of course, we end on practices of how you can live a hope-filled life. So look forward to that.
Right. Join us again for the conversation.
If something in today's episode stirred a question, a story, or even a quiet yes in you, we'd love to hear it.
You can join the conversation on Substack. Send us a note at info@themorningshare.com. or leave a comment wherever you listen to podcasts. We're listening, and we're grateful to be learning alongside of you.